trucker, you already know the road gets dangerous. Bad weather, four-wheelers pulling stupid moves, running on fumes at 3 a.m. with another few hundred miles to go. But that's not what sticks with you. It's the other nights, the quiet runs. When the CB's dead, the lot's empty, and you're the only set of headlights for miles. But something still feels off. Tonight, you'll hear 3 true stories from drivers like you. No monsters, nothing made up, just normal runs that went sideways fast. Because out here, your gut's the only early warning system you've got. Alright, let's get into it. I ran refrigerated freight for a cold storage company out of Flagstaff from 2019 to 2023. Pharmaceutical deliveries mostly. Vaccines, insulin, blood products. Temperature-sensitive cargo with tight delivery windows. March 2021, I had a run carrying COVID vaccines to a clinic in Farmington, New Mexico. I had to maintain 2 to 8 degrees Celsius the whole way. Any temperature deviation and the entire shipment would be worthless. Left Flagstaff at 11 p.m. 6-hour drive through the Navajo Nation on Highway 160. I'd been up since 5 a.m. that morning doing local deliveries. By the time I hit the road for Farmington, I was already running on fumes. Highway 160 through that stretch is isolated. 2 lanes cutting through high desert. No streetlights, no gas stations. Just dark scrubland and the occasional chapter house. At 2 a.m., you can drive 40 minutes without seeing another vehicle. I was about 3 hours in when the exhaustion really hit. The dangerous kind, where your eyes close for a second and you jerk awake not sure if you just covered 100 yards or a mile. I had a coffee in the cup holder, drank it cold. Didn't help much. Rolled down the window. March desert air was freezing. That helped more. I kept checking the refrigeration unit, temperature holding steady at 4 degrees. Just had to stay awake for another 3 hours. Around 2:45 a.m., I saw lights ahead. Red flares, maybe 6 or 7 of them, spread across both lanes in a pattern. My first thought was accident. I slowed down. As I got closer, I could see a car pulled halfway onto the shoulder, hood up, hazards blinking. A person standing next to it, waving their arms. I came to a stop about 30 feet back, left my headlights on the scene so I could see. The car was a newer model Chevy Malibu, white. The hood was propped open and I could see steam or smoke coming from the engine. The person waving was a man. Maybe 30s, wearing a jacket and jeans. He was waving with both arms in that urgent way people do when they need help. I grabbed my phone and flashlight and checked the time. 2:47 a.m. No cell service. I'd been in a dead zone for the past hour. I stepped out of the truck. The man jogged toward me as I walked over. "Thank God," he said. "I've been stuck here for over an hour. Phone's dead. You're the only person I've seen." I asked what happened. He said his engine overheated, started smoking, so he pulled over. Tried to let it cool down, but it wouldn't start again. I looked past him at the car. Steam was still rising from under the hood. The flares were set up in a careful pattern, creating a lane for traffic to pass on the left while blocking the right lane where his car sat. Professional setup, like highway patrol would do. I asked if he had road flares in his car. He said yes, emergency kit in the trunk. I walked closer to look at the engine. That's when I noticed the first thing that didn't make sense. The car was too clean. Not just clean, detailed. Like it had been washed that day. No dust, no dirt, no bug splatter on the windshield. You don't drive through the Navajo Nation without getting dust on your car, especially not in March when the wind picks up. I stopped walking. The man noticed. "Something wrong?" I said no, just trying to see what the problem was. But I was looking at the flares now. They were burning bright, evenly spaced, fresh. He said he'd been here over an hour. Road flares burn for 30 minutes, maybe 45 if they're high quality. These were still going strong. I took a step back. The man asked if I knew anything about engines, said he'd really appreciate the help. I told him I'd call a tow truck for him once I got back in cell range. He said that could be hours. Asked if I could at least give him a jump, maybe that would get it started. I said I didn't have jumper cables. That was a lie. I had cables in my truck. The man's expression changed, just slightly. The friendly desperation shifted to something else. "You sure about that?" he said. I backed toward my truck. The man didn't follow me. He just stood there watching me. I was maybe 10 feet from my driver's door when I caught movement in my peripheral vision. Behind the truck, the passenger side. I stopped walking. There was someone back there, crouched low near the rear wheels. I could see the outline of his shoulders, his head. He was rising up now, slow, like he'd been waiting. A second man, bigger than the first, dark hoodie pulled up. We locked eyes. Neither of us moved for 3, maybe 4 seconds. Then I ran. I got inside and locked the door. Both men were moving now, the first one jogging toward my driver's side, the second one heading for the passenger door. I started the engine. The first man banged on my window. "Wait, just wait a second!" I shifted into drive. He grabbed the door handle, pulled on it. I hit the gas. The truck lurched forward. He let go and stumbled back. I swerved around the flares and accelerated. In my side mirror, I could see both of them standing in the road, watching me drive away. The white Malibu was still there, hood up, hazards on. I pushed the truck to 70 and didn't slow down for 30 miles. When I hit cell range again around 3:30 a.m., I pulled over and called 911 and told them everything. The car, the flares, the 2 men. Dispatcher asked if I was injured. I said no. She asked if they threatened me or displayed weapons. I said no, but the whole setup felt wrong. The second man hiding behind my truck, the clean car, the fresh flares. She said she'd send someone to check it out. I asked if other drivers had reported anything similar on that stretch. She said she couldn't give out that information, but a deputy would follow up with me. I made my delivery to Farmington at 5:30 a.m. A temperature log showed the vaccines stayed in range the whole trip. I unloaded, got my paperwork signed. Around 10 a.m., I got a call from a tribal police officer. He said they'd searched the area where I reported the incident. No car, no flares, no debris, no evidence anyone had been there. I asked if they checked for tire tracks. He said they did. Road surface was too hard to show much detail. I thanked him and hung up. I kept running that route twice a week for another year. Never saw anything like that again. But I started paying attention to things differently. Cars pulled over on remote highways, people waving for help, road flares in the middle of nowhere. I stopped pulling over unless I saw an actual accident. Broken glass, deployed airbags, damage. If it looked too neat, too staged, I'd call it in and keep driving. Last year, I was at a truck stop in Gallup getting fuel. I started talking to another driver while we were both filling up. Mentioned Highway 160. Said I used to run it all the time. He said he avoided that stretch at night now. I asked why. He said about 2 years ago, March 2021, he came across a car broken down on the shoulder, road flares set up, a guy waving for help. He pulled over. The guy asked for a jump, started walking him toward the car. That's when he noticed there was no steam coming from the engine. The hood was up, but nothing was actually wrong with it. He got back in his truck and left. Guy didn't try to stop him, just stood there watching. I asked what kind of car it was. He said white Chevy Malibu. I quit long-haul routes in 2023, switched to local deliveries. Same company, shorter runs. Home every night, better sleep. I still think about that night sometimes. About the man waving for help. The second man hiding behind my truck. About what would have happened if I'd walked over to that car with my jumper cables. If I'd turned my back to look under the hood. I don't know what they were after. The cargo, maybe? The truck itself? Or maybe something worse. I drove regional freight for a distribution company out of Pittsburgh from 2017 to 2022. Mostly consumer goods, electronics, clothing, sporting equipment. Standard commercial runs to warehouses and retail centers across Pennsylvania and Ohio. December 2019, I picked up a load from a warehouse in Erie, heading to a distribution center outside Cleveland. Mixed cargo, holiday merchandise mostly. Toys, decorations, kitchen appliances. The warehouse was in an industrial area near the port, old neighborhood. Half the buildings were abandoned. I backed up to the loading dock around 6 p.m. It was already dark. Temperature was dropping, maybe 20 degrees with wind chill. 2 warehouse guys loaded the trailer. Took about 40 minutes. I did my walk-around inspection, checked the straps, closed and sealed the trailer doors, signed the paperwork, and headed out. 4-hour drive to Cleveland. I'd make the delivery around 11 p.m., sleep in the truck, head back in the morning. I-90 west out of Erie runs along the lake for about 20 miles before cutting inland. Winter driving, snow on the shoulders, salt on the road, trucks keeping it to 55. I merged onto the highway around 7 p.m. Traffic was light. A few cars, a handful of semis. Everyone heading home or making last runs before the holidays. I had the radio on, a classic rock station out of Cleveland, heat cranked up, standard drive. About an hour in, just past Connaught, I heard something. A thump. From the trailer. Not loud, just a single dull sound, like something shifting. Cargo settles sometimes. Straps loosen, boxes slide. I made a mental note to check it at the next rest area. Kept driving. 10 minutes later, I heard it again. Same sound, but different location. Closer to the front of the trailer this time. I turned the radio down and listened. Nothing. I watched the road, checked my mirrors. Then I heard it a third time. Not a settling sound, too deliberate. Something moving back there. I told myself it was just the cargo. The trailer wasn't climate controlled. Maybe boxes were contracting in the cold and shifting around. But I couldn't shake it. I pulled into a rest area about 5 miles up. A small one, just bathrooms and a few parking spaces for trucks. I parked away from the building, left the engine running, grabbed my flashlight and walked around to the trailer doors. The seal was intact. No one had opened it since Erie. I stood there in the cold, listening. Wind, highway traffic in the distance, my engine idling. Nothing from the trailer. I got back in the cab and pulled out. 20 minutes later, I heard footsteps. Not outside. Inside the trailer. Clear as day. Someone walking. 3 steps, then stopping. My hands tightened on the wheel. I reached for my phone. No, I thought. Call who? Say what? That I heard footsteps in a sealed trailer? I turned the radio off completely, sat there listening as I drove. Silence for maybe 5 minutes. Then I heard a voice, muffled, coming through the wall behind my seat. Someone talking. Couldn't make out words, just the sound of it. Then a second voice. Different pitch. There were at least 2 people in my trailer. I pulled onto the shoulder, hazards on, engine running. I sat there trying to think. The seal was intact. No one had opened the doors since the warehouse, which meant they were already inside when I left Erie. They'd hidden in the cargo, waited for me to seal the trailer and drive away. Now they were in there, moving around, talking. I called 911. The dispatcher asked my location. I gave her the mile marker. She asked what the emergency was. I said there were people in my trailer, stowaways. I didn't know how many or if they were armed. She asked if I was in danger. I said I didn't know. They were sealed inside. I hadn't opened the doors. She said she'd send a state trooper to my location and told me to stay in the cab. Don't open the trailer, don't approach. I said I wasn't planning to. I waited, watched the side mirror for flashing lights. The voices in the trailer had stopped. Either they heard me pull over or they were staying quiet. Every few minutes I'd hear a small sound, a scrape, a bump. They were still back there. A trooper pulled up behind me after maybe 15 minutes. He approached my driver's side. I rolled down the window. I explained the situation. Picked up a load in Erie, heard movement and voices from the trailer. Seal was still intact. He asked if anyone had threatened me. I said no, I hadn't opened the doors. He asked me to step out and open the trailer. I said I'd open it, but I wasn't getting close. He could check it himself. He agreed. We walked to the back of the trailer. I broke the seal and unlocked the doors. The trooper drew his weapon and told me to step back. He opened the left door slowly. "State Police, if there's anyone there, show yourself now." No response. He opened the right door, shined his flashlight inside. I couldn't see from where I was standing, but I heard him say, "Jesus Christ." There were 4 of them, 3 men, 1 woman, all in their 20s, maybe early 30s. They'd been hiding in the cargo, nested between boxes, wrapped in the moving blankets from the warehouse. The trooper ordered them out one by one. They climbed down onto the shoulder, hands up, not resisting. 2 more troopers arrived while this was happening. They cuffed all 4 and searched them, found 2 folding knives and a small pry bar. None of them said a word. They had me unload part of the cargo so they could check for anything else. It took another hour. By the time they cleared me to leave, it was almost midnight. I made the delivery to Cleveland at 1:30 a.m. and told the warehouse supervisor what happened. He said he'd noted in the system. I drove back to Pittsburgh the next morning. The company called me 3 days later, said the warehouse in Erie had reviewed their security footage. Couldn't tell when or how the 4 people got into my trailer. Loading dock cameras didn't cover that angle. They asked if I noticed anything suspicious. I said no. They said to keep doing inspections before sealing. That was all they could recommend. I never heard anything else about it. No follow-up from police, no charges I was aware of. Just gone. I quit that route 6 months later, switched to local deliveries, shorter runs. But I still check inside the trailer before I seal it, every time. a flashlight into every corner. Last month, I was picking up a load at a different warehouse in Erie. Different company, different part of town. I did my inspection, climbed inside with my flashlight, checked behind the pallets. Found a blanket wedged between two boxes in the back corner. Warehouse blanket. Same kind they use for padding. But it was warm. I drove independent freight for anyone who'd hire me from 2016 to 2021. No steady contracts, just load boards and spot rates. Hauling whatever needed moving. Construction materials, farm equipment, retail goods. The work was inconsistent, but the money was decent if you were willing to take the runs nobody else wanted. January 2020, I picked up a load of industrial generators in Elko, Nevada, heading to a mining operation outside Ellie. 3 units, about 8,000 pounds each. Good payout for a short haul. I left Elko around 10 p.m. 2-hour drive south on Highway 93. Remote stretch, high desert, no towns, barely any traffic. The temperature was in the teens. Clear night, no wind. I'd been up since 6 a.m. doing another run, but 2 hours didn't seem like much. I figured I'd deliver, grab a motel in Ellie, and sleep it off. Highway 93 through that area is straight and empty. 2 lanes, no shoulders worth mentioning, just asphalt and desert. I was about 45 minutes in when I saw brake lights ahead. A semi-truck, jackknifed across both lanes. I slowed down. As I got closer, I could see it was blocking the entire road. The cab was angled left, the trailer swung out to the right. No way to get around it. No flares, no hazards blinking. Just sitting there in the dark. I stopped about 50 feet back, left my headlights on the scene. The truck looked like a standard dry van. White trailer, dark cab. I couldn't see any damage to the wheels or undercarriage from where I sat. No one was moving around outside. I waited. Grabbed my phone. No service. I sat there for maybe 2 minutes trying to decide what to do. Then I saw movement. Someone coming around the far side of the cab. A man wearing a jacket and work boots. He waved at me. Not frantic, just a casual wave, like flagging down help. I stepped down. The man walked toward me as I approached. "Thank God," he said. "Been sitting here 20 minutes. Phone's dead. You're the first person I've seen." I asked what happened. He said he hit some ice and lost traction. The trailer swung out and he couldn't correct it. I looked past him at the truck. The road was dry. No ice, no puddles. I asked if he was hurt. He said no, just stuck. He asked if I had a CB radio, said he needed to call for a tow. I said I did. That's when I noticed his hands. They were dirty. Not road dirt, not grease. Dark stains on his palms, his fingers. He saw me looking. "Tried to check the undercarriage," he said. "See if anything broke." I nodded. But I was looking at the truck now. Really looking. The trailer doors were open. Just a few inches, but open. He noticed me staring. "Load shifted when I jackknifed," he said. "Had to check it." I took a step back. Something was wrong. The man's expression changed. Not dramatic, just a slight tightening around his eyes. "You got that CB or not?" he said. I told him yeah, but I needed to move my truck first. Get it off the road in case someone came around the bend. He said that made sense. I backed toward my truck. He didn't follow. and just stood there watching. I was maybe 10 feet from my door when I heard the trailer doors open wider. Metal scraping. Someone moving inside. I stopped. The man turned and looked at the trailer, and then back at me. "Just the wind," he said. There was no wind. I got in my truck and locked the door. The man started walking toward me. Not running, just walking. I started the engine. He was at my window now, knocked on it. "Hey, come on, I just need to use your radio." I shifted into reverse. He grabbed the door handle, pulled on it. "Don't be an asshole," he said. I hit the gas. The truck lurched backward. He lost his grip. That's when the second man came out of the trailer. He was bigger, wearing a heavy coat. He was carrying something. A length of pipe or a crowbar. I couldn't tell in the headlights. The first man yelled something at him. I couldn't hear what. I kept reversing. The second man started running toward me. I stopped, shifted into drive. The only way past was the right shoulder, narrow, sloping into soft desert sand. I cranked the wheel hard right and hit the gas. My truck tilted as the passenger side wheels dropped onto the slope. For a second, I thought I'd tip or get stuck. The second man reached my driver's side, swung the pipe at my window. The glass spiderwebbed but didn't break. He swung again. This time it shattered. Glass hit my face, my arm. I felt something warm on my cheek. Blood. The man reached through the broken window, grabbed at my shoulder. "We need the fucking truck," he said. I slammed the accelerator. The tires spun in the sand, then caught. The truck lurched forward. He lost his grip and stumbled back. I was barely past the jackknifed semi when my rear wheels hit pavement again. The truck bounced hard, fishtailed. I straightened it out and kept going. My mirror was gone, torn off somewhere in that mess. I didn't look back for 5 miles. When I finally did, there was nothing. Just empty highway behind me. I pulled over and checked myself. Cut on my cheek. Bleeding, but not deep. Small cuts on my arm from the glass. My hands were shaking. I sat there trying to calm down. Then I called to 911. Dispatcher asked my location. I gave her the mile marker where I thought the jackknife truck had been. She asked what happened. I told her. Truck blocking the road, 2 men. One attacked my window with a weapon and said they needed my truck. She asked if I was injured. I said minor cuts, but I was fine. She said she'd send highway patrol and an ambulance to meet me. I said I didn't need an ambulance, just wanted them to check out that truck. She said they would. I drove to Ellie, met a state trooper at a gas station off the highway. He took photos of my broken window, my cuts, took my statement. I told him everything. The jackknife truck, the 2 men, the stains on the first man's hands, the trailer doors open. What the second man had said about needing my truck. He said they'd send units to search the area. I asked what he thought was in that trailer. He said he didn't know. Could be stolen cargo. Could be something worse. I waited in Ellie for 3 hours. The trooper called me around 2 a.m. Said they'd search the mile marker I gave them. No truck, no debris. I said that was impossible. It was right there. He said they'd expanded the search north and south, checked access roads, looked for drag marks or turnaround points, found tire tracks on a mining access road about a mile south, fresh. Looked like a semi had pulled off and turned around. But no truck. No evidence of what happened. He said in 3 hours they could have moved it anywhere. Probably had help waiting. I asked what that meant. He said it meant they'd been watching for someone like me. Solo driver, late at night, valuable cargo. They clear out before police arrive. Said I should get my window fixed and file a report for insurance. I got the window replaced the next day in Ellie and drove back to Elko. Never made that delivery. Told the broker I'd had an accident. They found another driver. I stopped taking loads on Highway 93 after that. Too remote, too empty. 6 weeks later, I got a call from the same state trooper. He said they'd found a truck abandoned off Highway 93 about 30 miles south of where I'd reported the incident. White dry van, stolen out of California 2 weeks before my encounter. Nevada DMV had flagged it during a routine audit of impound records. The truck had been towed from a rest area, left there with no plates. Trooper said when they processed it, they found the trailer mostly empty. Just a tarp, some rope, and bolt cutters, and blood. A lot of it. I asked if they knew whose. He said no, still under investigation. But they were treating it as a potential homicide. Asked if I'd be willing to come in and look at photos, see if it was the same truck. I said I would. It was. I sold my truck in 2021 and quit driving freight completely. The window replacement fixed the glass, but I never got the door panel completely clean. There was still a smudge there, right where the man's hand had grabbed through. I tried to clean it maybe a dozen times. It never came out.